about announcements in terms of our state of the city. It's been a difficult year for the city, but I think through all of that, there has been a lot of positives, and we thought that tonight would be a really good time to remind us of all that we learned, the resiliency issues, and the fact that 2021 has arrived, and we all believe that there is a brighter outlook for everything that we do here in the city of Bristol. So I'm going to ask our senior council member, Councilwoman Fournier, to lead off with her thoughts about the last year.
Thank you, Mayor. One of our former presidents is known for the quote, "The most terrifying words in the English language are, 'I'm from the government and I'm here to help.'" I strongly disagree with this statement. I hope our brief overview of some highlights of this past year will help everyone see that here in Bristol, Connecticut, the truth is our actions and the actions of our dedicated and highly competent city employees have helped in very essential and meaningful ways during this unprecedented past year. The city responded to the COVID-19 pandemic by coordinating efforts to address the immediate needs of isolation, food insecurity, and access to food. The All Heart hotline operated from the mayor's office, matching volunteers with residents who needed help accessing essentials. Volunteers helped the Board of Education school lunch workers hand out thousands of school lunches when school was closed. Later, volunteers assisted the collaboration of the city and the United Way in mobile food distribution, giving out thousands of food boxes. We don't have time tonight to list all the collaboration that has occurred between the city and churches, community groups, nonprofits, and state agencies. When St. Vincent de Paul was in lockdown and was down critical staff, our generous community groups and individuals provided dinner every day for over 2 months. City Hall transitioned to moving as many services online as possible, and employees worked staggered shifts to preserve a healthy workforce. Two notable bright spots were our police and firefighters who conducted numerous drive-by birthday parades for city children during April and May. The pandemic is certainly the lead story for 2020, but the city had many other success stories, one of which was the amount of business activity that occurred here. Councilman Proleski will cover that next.
Thank you, Mary. I want to talk to you a little bit about city finances. I want you to know that I think the financial structure of our city remains solid. As you heard earlier from our comptroller, tax collections, even with the deferrals that we were allowed to do under the governor's rules, that tax collections came in strong. We continue to look for efficiencies. Later on in the meeting, you'll hear about some of the other consolidations that we've been working on for the last couple of months or several months. And we're continuing to look at re-engineering, restructuring, and looking for efficiencies and saving tax dollars. We put into effect business best practices in our financial area. We're working hard, as you heard earlier, about our audit, and our reserves remain consistently strong. As far as development, as we all know, the pandemic did affect us. We had a couple of projects slated for our center square that were ambitious and overall very good plans for the city, and they've been delayed because of the pandemic and the industries affected that were going to be tenants. However, there are a number of projects across the town that inspire us and will continue to increase our grand list. Most notably, the expansion of the DoubleTree restaurant, a significant expansion that's very aggressive and first class in its development and design. On the corners of Route 6 and North Main Street, Kind Care has plans to develop, I think, a 60,000 square foot building for assisted living, also well managed and well designed. In addition, across town, at the Southeast Industrial Park, we have letters of intent and contracts that have been signed and others being negotiated that will significantly take the open lots that are available for sale and drop that number significantly. So that area has been hot, and we've really worked hard to focus on development in the Southeast Industrial Park. What we've tried to focus too on is giving our professional staff in the mayor's office all the tools we can to give incentives to possible businesses who want to come to town. We've been aggressive, but we've been smart about it. But there's more. Small business also has thrived, we're focusing on small business and keeping in contact with them. With that, Councilman Kelly will give you an update.
Thank you, Dave. You're right. Small businesses have really been the shining star this past year, and the majority of them are soldiering on in spite of all of the challenges faced. 16 new businesses opened during the pandemic thus far, and there are more in the hopper. From Harbor Freight, Five Below, Pure Foods, Roasted Beans. The economic development team led by Justin Malley are very busy, and they visited over 50 businesses during the pandemic. And from July 1st, 2020 to January 2021, the ECD has facilitated 15 grant awards to varied new and existing businesses, from helping manufacturers add square footage to their facilities, to guiding small startups to energize downtown. And the city worked to distribute PPEs to businesses and launched the Small Business Video Series, which is hopeful of encouraging entrepreneurs to consider Bristol. And these small businesses are critical to providing jobs and support nonprofits and schools. And the challenges to the Board of Ed and the early childhood education programs have been daunting. Kudos to Kristen Peck, who heads the Board of Education School Readiness Program. NIAC, which is the National Association of Education of Young Children, requested to use the Bristol Board of Education digital portfolio as part of their training model. Now this is a national entity, and that's quite an honor to request that from Bristol. The Board of Education's administration should be acknowledged for their efforts to keep students in school against great odds, knowing it is very challenging for not only teachers, but students and parents as well. I spoke to a friend of mine recently who has 2 high school age students, and they're both honor roll students, very good kids, but this is a very difficult situation. And when you hear that honor roll students are struggling, it gives you an idea of the gravity of the situation, but the Board of Education is stepping up, and we will handle it. Now I'd like to turn the dais over to Councilman Brittany Barney Calhoun, so you can share what you have.
Thank you, Councilman Kelly. I'm going to share more glowing kudos about our city employees, because this year they continued to inspire with ideas and cross-functional cooperation that led to some great wins. So the pandemic definitely didn't put a stop to the creation of the outdoor classrooms and gardens at several Bristol schools. This collaboration between the public works and schools provided a fun and engaging learning experience for our students. The project put Bristol in the spotlight and earned itself a TV special on CBTV. The outdoor classroom project also helped propel Bristol as one of the few cities to achieve the silver certification for sustainable CT. This gives Bristol the edge in applying for state grants and positions us to save money on a variety of energy areas, including the city-sponsored Solar One initiative to help homeowners afford solar on their homes. Attaining silver was not the only recognition we received in 2020. Bristol led the census response with a statistical 100% completion rate after the door-to-door phase was complete, which is an incredible achievement. Kudos also goes out to the Mayor's Task Force on Opioid Prevention, which received a Telly Award for its series of public service announcements. Last, I think it's important to highlight the ways in which the city has sought to be a more diverse community. The Diversity Council hosted its 2nd annual Pride flag raising, and the Diversity Council, City Council, and Police Department came together for an inspiring community conversation on diversity in Rockwell Park. And just to conclude that, I saw new Deputy Chief Tavares and Guerrera, and I remember listening to them and seeing them take those questions at the Diversity Council meeting at a time where there was a lot of tension. They really stepped up to the plate, including Police Chief Gould, to try to work with the community to have difficult conversations, to be targeted with questions that were hard to answer, and they really did their best to make sure that Bristol was all heart and working towards a better tomorrow, and I'm very proud of them. So I wanted to just shout them out a little extra tonight too. And with that, I'll turn it over to the Board of Police, Police Board Liaison, Councilman Scott Rosado.
Oh, thank you, Brittany. Well, while these times have been challenging, Bristol continues to move forward, providing the quality of life that we all deserve. And so I'm sure I not only speak for myself, but all the council members. We're proud to be part of what's happening, the changes, and the great things that are yet to come. During the pandemic, our city parks became essential services. They stayed open so people could get outside and kids can enjoy the playgrounds. The mountain bike trail was a great addition to Rockwell Park area, and we started planning for the next phase of the pump park. Our park staff did a great job creating and updating pickleball courts for all to enjoy, especially our seniors. The park's master plan is underway, and while Page Park Pool didn't open, we can't wait for people to see it open in June. The merger of Parks, Recreation, Youth, and Community Services couldn't have happened at a better time. Since there was so much work to be done helping families at this time, we continue to provide counseling services, and now, as a Board of Education child care provider for working parents on the days the kids don't have school. On top of the pandemic, the police and fire departments had to adjust as first responders. We can't forget the George Floyd tragedy and protests that happened last spring and summer. And thanks to the community policing and involvement, thank you, Chief, we didn't see the issues that other cities did. But it did make it very clear that the conversations about diversity, equity, and inclusion need to continue. I'd like to turn this over to Councilman Greg Hahn, my partner in District 1.
In a crisis, a community is only as strong as its safety net, as Mary was mentioning earlier, but it's also about infrastructure. Our critical workforce made adjustments but continued on with construction, drainage, water and sewer work, paving, bridge repair, and sanitary services to collect trash and recycling, all of which increased with everyone staying home. On top of that, we had the August storm to deal with. This had our maintenance crews working 7 days a week to clear streets. The Energy Commission is working on projects to reduce Bristol's energy consumption and carbon footprint. They are now researching how Bristol can benefit from microgrid technology, working with state legislature to make microgrid programs work better for municipalities is high on our list. We have also secured an $850,000 open space grant for Shrub Road. The Arts and Culture Commission produced a mural downtown that lifted everyone's spirits, and they are working with business development and parks on other projects throughout the city. While there may not have been the usual series of concerts and festivals that Bristol loves, the city's third round of CDBG COVID funds did go to some of the city's nonprofits, like the Carousel Museum, to help them during closure and reduced hours. And now, the mayor will close up the state of the city.
Thank you, everyone. I think you all covered the wide range of departments and services that we offered. I'm just going to take a minute to talk about the partnerships because, as many of you heard through all of the reports, what we've done over the last 3 years is try to break down the barriers and silo effect of many departments and agencies. We are working together. It makes us stronger as a city to have departments working across department lines. And I think it's really important to highlight some of those partnerships. First, the Bristol-Burlington Health District, which is its own district covering 2 communities, has been a critical player. Those employees have been working every day since March 13th, and long hours. They have shifted from COVID response in a pandemic to offering significant public health response. We've had dental hygienists and our public health nurses working at Bristol Hospital during the school shutdown. They're now working in order to get vaccines out in our community. I can't say enough about them. On the inside, we've had city staff here in this building who have continued to perform their duties every day, interacting with the public at high risk, and also dealing with all of those issues that come with it. Human Resources has been busy with COVID response. We also have our IT department, our unsung heroes who have been servicing all of us from our technological needs and the Board of Education needs for the last 9 months, allowing us to pivot to so many virtual platforms, as well as providing programs virtually as well. Our parks became important, as you've already heard, but also we had so many of our citizens mourn the loss of access to the libraries and the senior center. And so that has put it even more important, the issues of isolation amongst our population and making sure that our staff was in contact with them through phone calls, virtual programming, email programs, and everything that we could do to retain those relationships. Most importantly, we had strong partners in our city, and that included Bristol Hospital, Community Health Center, the United Way, the Chamber of Commerce, all of the nonprofits and churches, and so many individuals stepped up just to help their neighbors, and I think that that's very telling. Most importantly, as Councilman Perleski noted, we had so many things happening amongst all of these other issues. Downtown has been a hot spot for years. What are we going to do with downtown? Well, interestingly, over the course of the last 9 months, downtown was alternately hosting COVID testing, farmers to families food box distributions, peaceful protests, and our very important farmers markets, which were deemed essential by the governor in order to provide additional access to healthy food for people during the pandemic. All of this was a bright spot amongst the chaos, and we really enjoyed our Saturday mornings. This year, the focus is going to be on rebuilding the infrastructure of downtown as Parcel 10 on Main breaks ground, the Webster Bank changes hands, which we've been involved with, and 10 Main Street at the corner of South and Main begins to attract tenants after being fully renovated by the D'Amato Corporation. And meanwhile, progress continues at the Memorial Boulevard, which will be an attraction for downtown, and we are moving forward on the Sessions Building. The COBRA program between Bristol Hospital and the police department have actually, hopefully, been one of the reasons why you are going to see that our opioid numbers for the calendar year 2020 were cut almost in half. Now, there's other reasons and other alternating factors there, but that's a statistic that we can be very proud of, that we'll hear more of at the February meeting. I think that it's also important to notice that we are looking to do more with these reorganizations, but the ones that are working really well include our volunteer forces like CERT, who supported so many of our efforts during the pandemic, and the increased communication that I just see through my office between the departments that was not present when I started. The water and sewer consolidation has been working fantastic, and they work very well with Parks and Public Works. And now you see these back and forth emails amongst all of those division heads sharing resources during the pandemic. We have bi-weekly calls with all of our department heads under the emergency management specter for COVID, and right there too are so many ideas. We expedited together across 7 departments the outdoor dining piece for all of our restaurants to help them through the summer, and I'm not sure that that would have been done if we didn't have working relationships with everyone. Code enforcement continues to be a priority, and we are also going to understand that all of this has given us a better foundation to understand some of the issues that we're going to be facing this year. They include the now known issue about food insecurity that happens right here in Bristol. It includes the fact that the opioid public health crisis has now been identified and we have some supports in place, but that it continues, and that sometimes people's mental health during items like a pandemic actually have adverse effects. We're also looking at some suicide statistics that are troubling for our community. We've identified the digital divide, and we've been working hard on some of our broadband initiatives in order to do more there as well. So the housing issues, including today, where we had a very problematic and sad eviction happen that many of the departments responded to, are all signs of the times, and I think it's part of the resiliency that we've built in, that we now know that we are equipped to deal with them as they come at us. I'd like to take a minute to thank the City Council because they've been just very stalwart and very hardworking over this last 9 months and very supportive of everything that had to happen out of the mayor's office, especially covering events and doing everything that needed to be done. So it's a strong team. I appreciate all the work. I appreciate for the employees that are here, all that you've done knowing so much of it happens behind the scenes, that you don't get the kudos that you deserve for every day that you come to this building and do what needs to be done to preserve city services. And I look forward to hopefully 2021 being a very rewarding year for all of us. So thank you.